An HOA president with a master key is a dangerous thing. An HOA president who thinks that key makes them God is a recipe for a full-blown catastrophe. I learned this the hard way, but thankfully, my son was there to make sure the lesson stuck. Not for me, but for the petty tyrant who ruled our building with an iron fist and a jangling set of keys. My name is Alex. I'm a single dad working as a project manager for a construction company. It's a demanding job, and all I wanted when I moved into the Crestview Meadows apartment complex was a quiet, safe place for my 16-year-old son, Leo, and me. After a difficult divorce, peace was the only luxury I craved. Our new home was supposed to be a sanctuary, but every Eden has its serpent, and ours was named Karen. She was the self-appointed queen of the HOA, a woman in her mid-50s with helmet-like hair and a smile that was all teeth and no warmth. She wore her master key on a lanyard around her neck, not as a tool of responsibility, but as a royal scepter, a constant, glittering reminder of her authority. She made the critical mistake of assuming I was just another tired dad, and that my quiet, video game-obsessed son was just another disaffected teen. What she didn't know was that Leo wasn't just playing games. He was learning to build them, and the digital worlds he conquered had taught him a thing or two about building inescapable traps in the real one. Have you ever had a neighbor who thought the rules applied to everyone but them? Stick around, because this isn't just a story about getting even. It's a story about how a 16-year-old with a keyboard systematically and legally dismantled a petty tyrant's entire empire. The first violation happened on a Tuesday. I was on a conference call at work, trying to negotiate a supply chain issue, when my phone buzzed with a frantic text from Leo. He was home from school, supposedly attending his online classes. The message read, "Dad, Karen just tried to unlock our door." My blood ran cold. I quickly excused myself from the call and phoned him. His voice was shaky. He told me he'd heard the distinct sound of a key sliding into our lock, followed by a metallic jingle. He crept to the door and looked through the peephole. It was her. Karen, her face pinched in concentration, was actively trying to turn the key. Leo, thinking fast, yelled through the solid wood, "Can I help you?" He said she jumped back, startled, before composing herself. "Just doing a routine maintenance check, dear," she'd called out in a sickly sweet voice. I thought I heard a beeping sound. Then her footsteps retreated down the hall. A beeping sound. It was the most pathetic lie I'd ever heard. That evening, I walked down to her apartment, determined to handle it calmly. I knocked, and she answered with that unnerving plastic smile. "Karen," I began, keeping my voice level. "We need to talk about you trying to enter my apartment today. The bylaws, which I've read, state you need to provide 24 hours written notice for any non-emergency entry. A fire or a flood is an emergency. A phantom beeping is not." She waved a dismissive hand. "Oh, Alex, don't be so dramatic. I was just being a concerned, proactive president. You should be thanking me." I stood my ground, informing her that I had already confirmed the policy with the building's official management company. They had, in fact, already sent her a gentle reminder email on which I was copied. The smile on her face vanished, replaced by a flash of pure fury. She had been corrected, and she didn't like it one bit. This wasn't a resolution. It was a declaration of war. Karen's retaliation was as petty as it was predictable. Suddenly, we were the source of all the building's problems. We received a formal noise complaint for watching a movie on a Friday night, the volume barely above a conversational level. I found notes on my car's windshield, written in an aggressive red marker, informing me I had parked 1 inch over the line. She was building a paper trail, trying to establish us as problem tenants who needed extra supervision. The situation was becoming untenable, but the true turning point came 2 weeks later. I was working from home, in the middle of a crucial video presentation with my company's senior partners. I heard it again, the unmistakable, sickening sound of a key in our lock. My heart hammered against my ribs. I muted my microphone, whispered one moment to my screen full of confused executives, and strode to the door. I didn't yell this time. I simply swung the door wide open. Karen was standing there, her hand on the key, halfway through turning it. She stumbled backward, her face a mask of shock, caught red-handed. I smelled gas," she stammered, her eyes darting around for an escape. The lie was so blatant, so insulting, it was almost comical. "There is no gas leak, Karen," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "This is the final warning. The next time this happens, I am calling the police and retaining a lawyer," she scoffed, her arrogance flooding back to replace her fear. "Good luck with that," she sneered. "I am the board. Who do you think they'll believe?" She turned and stalked off. I closed the door, my hands shaking with rage. Later that evening, Leo found me staring blankly at the wall, the stress of the situation weighing me down. He sat beside me, his expression serious. "Dad, she's a system administrator with root access," he said. The technology was uniquely his. "You can't just ask her to follow the rules. You have to change her permissions." I was about to dismiss it as in jargon, but then I saw the look in his eyes. It was a focused, analytical fire. "I can handle this," he said, his voice steady with a confidence that startled me. "And we can do it completely legally." Leo laid out his plan on the living room floor, not with charts and graphs, but with a laptop and a whiteboard he'd commandeered from his bedroom. He explained that fighting Karen through official channels was a losing game. She controlled the narrative. The key wasn't to complain about her, but to create a situation where her actions would be exposed to everyone, in real time, without any filter. His plan was a masterpiece of technological warfare disguised as home security. First, the hardware. We would replace our standard deadbolt with a high-end smart lock. But this was where Leo's genius came in. He wasn't just going to install it. He was going to modify it at the component level. He explained that master keys, especially in large complexes, often have a slightly different bitting or cut pattern than individual keys. He was going to install a microscopic sensor inside the lock mechanism that could differentiate between my key and her master key. Next, the software. Leo would write a custom script, a set of instructions that the lock's processor would execute the microsecond it detected the signature of the master key. He called the program Project Camera. The moment her key was inserted, a cascade of events would be triggered automatically. A tiny, motion-activated camera, hidden in a discreet air freshener I'd mount in the hallway above our door, would instantly begin recording and live streaming to a secure cloud server. The camera's placement was key. It recorded the public hallway, a space with no expectation of privacy, making it perfectly legal. But the masterstroke, the part of the plan that made me realize my son was part strategist and part digital assassin, was the notification system. The camera script would automatically generate an email with the subject line, "Urgent Security Alert, Unauthorized Access Attempt at Unit 3B," and it would blast this email out to the entire HOA mailing list, the very list Karen herself maintained for official announcements. The body of the email would be simple, containing only a link to the live stream from the hallway camera. Her attempt to secretly enter our home would be broadcast to every single one of our neighbors as it happened. The following weekend was a flurry of activity. Circuit boards and wires covered our dining table as Leo, with the intense focus of a surgeon, modified the smart lock's internal components. He soldered tiny connections and uploaded his custom firmware, explaining every step to me. "We're not hacking anything, Dad," he clarified, sensing my parental anxiety. "We're just enhancing our own property's security features. Think of the mass email as an ultra-efficient neighborhood watch notification. It's using the established community communication channel to report a security incident. According to the bylaws," she wrote, "we're encouraged to report suspicious activity. We're just doing it with zero latency." His logic was airtight, impeccably researched, and honestly, a little terrifying. He had weaponized the very rules she used to control us. While we were building our digital fortress, Karen's overconfidence was reaching its peak. She saw me installing the new, sleek-looking smart lock and shot me a condescending smirk in the hallway. "A new lock, Alex? Remember, all modifications need to be approved by the architectural committee," she said, tapping the plastic-covered list of rules hanging on the community bulletin board. She thought it was a pathetic attempt to keep her out. She had no idea I was actively inviting her in. At the next HOA meeting, which I made a point to attend, she made a grand speech about maintaining the integrity of building standards and unauthorized alterations to door hardware, staring directly at me the entire time. She felt completely, utterly untouchable. She was a queen addressing a peasant, entirely unaware that the peasant was sharpening the blade of the guillotine. The trap was now set, baited with her own arrogance. We just had to wait for her to walk into it. The trap was armed and waiting, a silent sentinel on our front door. The next few days were excruciatingly tense. Every creak in the hallway, every distant footstep, made me jump. Leo, however, was in his element. He sat at his command center, a triple monitor setup in his room, watching the system logs and tweaking the sensitivity of the sensors. He was calm, methodical, a general waiting for the perfect moment to spring his ambush. But we knew we couldn't just wait for her to randomly decide to try our door again. We needed to give her a reason, an irresistible piece of bait she couldn't ignore. And Leo, with his intimate understanding of our adversary, knew exactly what that bait should be. He had discovered, through some clever and legal network analysis, that Karen was using her administrative privileges to monitor the building's Wi-Fi network usage. It was a gross invasion of privacy, but a perfect vulnerability to exploit. "She's looking for rule breakers," Leo explained. "So let's give her one." His plan was diabolical. He initiated a massive data transfer from his computer to a secure, encrypted cloud server. To any network administrator snooping on the traffic, it would look like our apartment was suddenly uploading and downloading terabytes of data, a classic signature of someone running an illegal server or pirating massive amounts of content. It was a direct, flagrant violation of the HOA's acceptable use policy for the community internet service. It was the perfect lure. It was an offense so egregious in her rule-obsessed mind that she would feel not just entitled, but obligated to investigate immediately. She wouldn't bother with a 24-hour notice. She wouldn't call the management company. She would want to catch us in the act herself, to burst in and stand victorious over our supposed digital misdeeds. The bait was cast. Now we watched and waited. The response was faster and more aggressive than either of us had predicted. Less than an hour after Leo began the enormous data transfer, a small alert popped up on his secondary monitor. "Ping," he said softly, a grim smile touching his lips. "She's sniffing the network traffic for our unit specifically. She's taken the bait." The quiet hum of the computers was the only sound in the room. We sat on the couch, the laptop open on the coffee table between us, displaying a crisp, clear feed from the hidden camera above our door. The hallway was empty, bathed in the sterile glow of the overhead lights. My heart was pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. This was it, the culmination of weeks of stress, planning, and whispered conversations. Then we saw her. The elevator doors at the end of the hall slid open, and she strode out like a predator that had caught the scent of its prey. Her walk was purposeful, her lanyard with the master key swinging with each determined step. A look of righteous fury was etched onto her face. There was no subtlety, no attempt at stealth. She was a sheriff heading for a high-noon showdown, utterly convinced of her own authority and our guilt. She marched directly to our door, Unit 3B. On the laptop screen, we watched her come to a halt, her body eclipsing much of the frame. She cast a cursory glance to her left, then to her right. The hallway was empty. Satisfied that there were no witnesses, she reached for the royal scepter hanging from her neck. The moment was pure, slow-motion cinema. We watched on the laptop as she lifted the master key, its metallic edges glinting under the hallway light. She inserted it into the keyhole of our new smart lock. The instant the metal made contact with the internal sensors, Leo's meticulously crafted script executed. On his monitor, a line of bold, red text flashed. Chimera protocol activated. Trigger, master key detected. Simultaneously, my phone vibrated in my pocket. Leo's phone, sitting beside him, buzzed in unison. And across the Crestview Meadows complex, in dozens of other apartments, phones and laptops began to chime with the arrival of a new, high-priority email. The subject line was unmissable. Urgent security alert. Unauthorized access attempt at Unit 3B, live feed. On our screen, we saw Karen's expression shift from smug confidence to mild confusion. She tried to turn the key, but it wouldn't budge. This was a feature Leo had added at the last minute. A secondary, internal deadbolt that mechanically engaged the instant the master key was detected. The lock was now a brick. She could jiggle the key all day, but she was not getting in. Her confusion curdled into frustration. "What is wrong with this lock?" she muttered. Her voice picked up with perfect clarity by the camera's sensitive microphone. Then, we heard a new sound, both on the laptop speakers and through our own door. It was the sound of another apartment door opening down the hall. "Mr. Henderson from 3D, a quiet accountant, poked his head out. He was looking down at his phone, then up at Karen, his brow furrowed in confusion. A moment later, the door to 3A opened. It was Mrs. Gable, holding her tablet. They were all holding their devices. They were all looking at the email. They were all watching the live stream. They were all watching her. For a few more agonizing seconds, Karen remained completely oblivious, her world still confined to the battle with the uncooperative lock. She was so consumed by her own authority being defied by a simple piece of hardware that she hadn't noticed the growing audience. "Karen," Mr. Henderson's voice was hesitant but loud enough to echo in the now silent hallway. "What are you doing?" "I just got a very strange email." Her head snapped up, her hand freezing on the key. Her eyes darted from Mr. Henderson to Mrs. Gable, then to the glowing screens in their hands. The gears began to turn in her mind, each click a visible step in her horrifying realization. The color drained from her face, leaving a pasty, gray pallor. She understood. She hadn't just been caught. She had been broadcast. Her secret act of trespass had been made spectacularly, undeniably public. This was the moment I had been waiting for. I took a deep breath, walked to the door, and opened it. I wasn't angry or yelling. I held my own phone in my hand, the damning email displayed on the screen for her to see. "Karen," I said, my voice deliberately calm and level, cutting through the thick tension. "It seems my new security system detected an unauthorized key. It's programmed to alert the entire community mailing list to potential break-ins. It's a wonderful feature for community safety, don't you think?" She just stood there, mute and paralyzed, the master key still protruding from my lock. The scepter of her power had become the smoking gun in her hand. She was surrounded, not by me, but by her constituents, the very people she lorded her power over. Their faces were a mixture of shock, confusion, and the dawning light of righteous anger. Her reign was over. It ended not with a bang, but with the collective chime of 100 notifications. The fallout was faster and more devastating than a wrecking ball. That very evening, an emergency HOA meeting was called. It wasn't called by Karen. It was forced by an online petition that had garnered signatures from over 60% of the residents within an hour of the incident. The evidence was irrefutable. Leo had archived the entire live stream, which was presented on a large projector screen for all to see. The clip of her muttering, "What is wrong with this lock?" followed by her deer-in-the-headlights expression when she realized she was being watched, played on a loop of silent, damning humiliation. As a coup de grace, Leo had also prepared a log of her unauthorized network snooping on multiple residents, which he had legally captured from our own connection point. That sealed her fate. By unanimous vote, Karen was stripped of her presidency and her master key access was immediately revoked. The board, under immense pressure, also levied the maximum possible fines against her for multiple, documented bylaw violations. The building's management company, now facing the threat of a class action lawsuit from residents who rightfully suspected their privacy had been violated for years, preemptively terminated their contract with our disgraced HOA. A new, far more professional and transparent company was brought in within a month. Karen couldn't stand the shame. Her power was gone, and her neighbors now looked at her with a mixture of pity and contempt. She put her unit up for sale and was gone in less than 2 months. We never saw her again. Leo, my quiet, unassuming son, became a local legend. He was the kid who dethroned the queen. He even started a small, ethical side business helping other residents secure their home networks and smart devices, using the money to build a computer so powerful it could probably calculate the meaning of life. The lesson in all of this is profoundly simple. Petty power, the kind wielded by bullies and small pawns, thrives in darkness and silence. It depends on people being too tired, too intimidated, or too isolated to challenge it. But when you find a way to shine a bright, undeniable light on their actions, the monsters scurry away in an instant. Karen believed her master key gave her absolute control over our homes and our lives. My son taught her, in our entire community, that the ultimate master key is knowledge. And when you use it correctly, you can unlock a level of justice they never, ever see coming. What's the most clever way you've ever seen someone stand up to a bully? I'd love to read your stories in the comments. And if you enjoyed this one, make sure to follow for more.